Welcome back to another episode of NFT 365. As always, we are excited to be sponsored by the Crypto Business Conference. Crypto Business Conference is a conference for those marketers, entrepreneurs looking to level up their knowledge and network with all of those that are in the Web3 as well as that NFT space. And one of the ways that I believe that we can not only grow together as a community, but also to kind of hype up, times as we're kind of dealing with, all of the roller coaster that is the NFT world, and rest in peace, NFT worlds. That's a whole nother story. Is that we can also, it's about not only coming together, but it's about what does it mean to build and innovate in these times? Like, what does it mean to push the envelope? And I'm excited to kind of talk a little bit about that because I think that's where a lot of this conversation that we can have right now should be going in many cases. And first, I wanted to highlight one of the NFTs that we minted recently, just a couple of days ago, and it's still actually available right now for this today's episode, is a project called Not Your Demons. And now, Not Your Demons is from a project that we actually minted, I believe, way back in December for our NFT project, for our Mint 365, called Not Your Bro. And so the Not Your Bro team has rolled out kind of their second phase, which is called Not Your Demons. And I just have to give a shout out to their team. I believe that they're Not Your Bro, the website experience is, in my opinion, one of the very best in the entire Web3 space. So if you're looking to level up, or maybe you want to copy and see what a great web experience looks like for an NFT brand, I think Not Your Bro is the I will hear. Well, I'll do this while we're live recording. I believe it is notyourbro.co. So notyourbro.co should open up the website that that they have, and I think it's a really great website, the way they have it all designed. I also really love just the way that they kind of even included this next version. So Not Your Demon is the second kind of rollout of their project. And I will tell you, just for me, it definitely, their project, their community definitely has like a movement feel, and I just love what they represent. And we included them in our collection the first time, and now the second time as well, which is kind of a fun component here. And with that being said, one of the things that I mentioned early was about how do we innovate? How do we think differently? And of course, we can always use the Gary Vaynerchuk way of innovating because let's face it, the man is doing some really creative things with VFriends, with the entire community. And for those that are watching on video, of course, I'm holding up the VFriends cards, right? So they have he has a trading cards that you got if you minted a VFriends Series 2. And so mine came in the mail. I actually did an unboxing video. So for those that are that are following me on Twitter or following on Instagram or even on TikTok now, iSocial fans on all of those channels, you can actually see the unboxing, because I thought the boxing experience was actually really well done by Gary V and his team as well. But one of the things that I get excited about, and I wanted to kind of have fun with this episode, was one of the episodes that I know a lot of people talk about when they meet me, or we're having conversations. They're like, Brian, the episode where you did 41 use cases about NFTs that nobody are talking about was, one of the ones that kind of gave me the aha, or opened my mind to what was possible. And, that episode to me, it was fun because it was something I was building over a couple of weeks. Like every time I came up with a new use case, I was like, I just add it to this, this note that I had on my iPhone. And then, the other part of that I get excited about is really thinking beyond, what, not even trying to take Web 2 into Web 3, but actually kind of reimagining new ways to do things without trying to take the old ways, right? And I'm a big believer that one of the mistakes that we can make when we're innovating during the early adoption phase is that we try to take Web 2 solutions and merge them into Web 3, and we did that with lots of different transitions that we've had, and I think for me, one of the big ones was speaking, right? I'm a full-time keynote speaker, and when we try to take a offline event and just kind of merge it online, it becomes a bunch of stale speakers staring into a camera and people being bored and distracted. But why don't we think about it from okay, what was the experience that we wanted at an offline event? And then how can we reimagine those same type of experiences in this digital, virtual environment, right? Like leveraging the 360 degrees that are around us. And for me, a lot of that requires us to not only, be willing to think differently and reimagine, kind of the ways that we look at things. But, one of the other parts of this whole conversation when you think about innovating in Web3 is that we have to think about, is our goal to solve a Web 2 problem, or is our goal to understand, maybe even identify, either new problems in Web 3 or even ways that we have to kind of like rethink the way that we do things. And one of them for me is certifications or verification of, this is now, for those that follow me on Instagram, I've now had 5 imposter accounts that have rolled up over the last 60 days where people are creating an account that looks like mine. The newest one just added a Z to the end of iSocial Fans. So it's iSocial Fans with 2 Z's at the end. If you get a message from that account, it is not me, please report it. But that actually got me thinking about NFTs and the blockchain, right? The idea of impersonation, right? Or even the idea of knockoff, products when people buy a product. If you're able to connect it and authenticate it on the blockchain, what does that open up for us, right? What does that allow us to kind of reimagine? And of course, one of those things are, storing our data in the digital or in our wallet. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that on an upcoming episode about this, this premise of NFTs that are really data repositories that aren't, NFTs for trading or selling or buying, but rather they're NFTs for us individually to store, data onto the blockchain. But even if we think beyond that, right? What if you were able to, not only show your different certifications or your knowledge on the blockchain, but what if you were able to kind of select and really demonstrate your authority based on certain NFTs that you have in your wallet? And so I'm not talking about if you have a Bored Ape in your wallet, then you're all of a sudden an expert. I mean, go back and listen to episode 1 of this podcast. I share my opinion on that topic. But what I mean more so than that is imagine if we had, because one of the things that I know is a big, place that we can reimagine is the onboarding and the recruiting, and how do we find, new jobs, and how do we find the right people into the right jobs? And I know, I listen to a lot about the recession. I listen to a lot of content and really try to understand a lot of the moving parts on what, triggers, our stock market and even crypto, and, really trying to just kind of dial in a lot of the, where the landscape is. And one of them is that a lot of people don't want to go back to work, right? Or a lot of people realized during the pandemic that, that was no longer something they valued. But let's face it, we also have to pay bills, and we also have to make sure that we are providing for those that we're providing for. And then we also have to look at it and say, what new skill sets and new things did we realize that are important on our lives? But more importantly, how do we demonstrate them virtually so that people can hire us when we work from home? Or how do we get discovered, right? And discovering new talent, discovering new people that share your purpose and passion in the online space is very, very broken, right? The idea that right now, the way that we do discovery is Google, right? We type in a question or a series of words, and Google surfaces us results. Now, let's face it, those results are not based on what is the best person or the best product or the best service. It's based on who SEO'd that the most, right? Who search engine optimization, right? Who has paid the most or designed the most their website so that it is actually shows up the most in search. It's no different here on the podcast, right? Oftentimes the podcasts that get the most listens are not the most popular podcasts. They happen to be the ones that happen to have figured out what are the common search terms that people are searching in a podcasting app so it comes up. But let's face it, that's like a Web 2 world. But in a Web 3 world, if we were able, for rather than us, having to search and the results being presented to us in the sense of what someone characterizes it by, what if we were able to search by what the blockchain was able to expose us based on the data and information that was there? So rather than it being search engine optimized, it would actually be something that the blockchain would actually be able to track or manage or scale. And so like for me, one of those examples is like, I love learn to earn, right? Learn to earn, listening to earn, like that. These are things that play to earn is the gaming side where you get rewarded for how many hours you play. Learn to earn is that same idea, right? Like if you finish this course in a certain amount of time, you'll get like a crypto or you'll get a coin. And if you want to check some of those things out, Coinbase does that really well. I have no affiliation with them, but Coinbase does that really well, where you can get crypto for actually taking their courses. And if you go through their course, they'll give you a certain amount of crypto at the end. But more so than just like, us being like the idea of us having to learn or learn to earn, what if we were able to use NFTs and the blockchain to demonstrate our commitment, our process and our procedures that we are taking when it comes to learning and continuing to learn. And what I mean by that is, like, for me in this NFT space, like, someone asked me a really good question yesterday. They were like, Brian, how do you determine or how do you find great people to follow or to trust in the NFT space? And I jokingly said, well, different times in this market I've found where certain people are really people that I want to listen to, and then I realized later on that maybe I got that wrong. Or people that were here and very loud early on have now disappeared recently, right? We don't hear from a lot of the quote unquote like influencers and thought leaders that were in the space, over time. But what I threw out, and this is how this got me thinking, was what I would actually love to measure someone's influence or knowledge of this space is I would love for the blockchain to be able to surface up, like, who are those that have minted NFTs on the most variety of blockchains, right? Who are those that continue to buy and sell NFTs, but doing it in a way that is, what we are looking for, right? So like, who are the people that are those that are active in the space, that do a certain amount of Twitter spaces, that are followed by a certain amount of these people on social media, but that also have bought NFTs along the way? Because this is an interesting part, was, one of the people's wallets that I've always tracked, I hadn't looked at it in probably, 2 months or so. And I went back to look at it the other day, and I realized, their wallet they haven't minted anything or added anything to this wallet in a couple months. It was like 2 months, I believe, or like a month and a half. And my first thought wasn't like they disappeared from the space. I was like, they just use another wallet. I do that. For anyone that's trying to track, I have my Fanzo.eth wallet, but I have my iSocialFans.NFTs wallet or NFT wallet. Right now, I think on my computer, I probably have nine or 10 wallets that are currently signed in, just from different projects and different collections that we're doing. And so I reached out to this individual who I happen to know pretty well. And I said, hey man, I see that you must have moved on to a new wallet. I don't know if you're game for it, but I would love to, see what you're buying recently. I'm always looking to learn and grow. And I've always, appreciated the way that you look at this space. And I didn't get a message back for about a day. And when I got the message back, he's like, actually, the funny part is I haven't bought an NFT. I've just decided that, I'm happy with my current, NFTs that are in my wallet. And I really am not paying attention much into the space. And the irony of that was, he was like, and I'm not gonna put the name out there, but he was like, it's funny, Brian. He's like, I had somebody reach out for me to do an interview the other day, and they really wanted me to talk about like the landscape of NFTs right now. And he's like, the thing that hit me was like, Brian, you should be the one that comes up in that, like, for that person in their results, because you're still buying an NFT every day and you're still doing your podcast every day. And if they were like you and looked at my wallet, they would recognize that I'm not currently active in the NFT space as far as buying and selling. He's like, so I wouldn't be like the most trusted resource. But because I was the trusted resource 3 months ago, they just kind of defaulted to that. And like, to me, that's like, wow, that's such an interesting, presentation of like data and information and trust and influence. The other thing that I like to think about, like in this, how can NFTs reimagine our world? And, I really do believe, I'll make it, the prediction that I've made, I think I made it here on the podcast a couple of times as well, is that like the two places I believe, NFTs are going to be the first, like, kind of mass, or let's not even say mass adoption, but like, massive growth, will be in the rewards category, right? Like rewarding people for, like instead of staying at a Marriott, and you getting just rewards that you can't transfer anywhere, having like hotel, rewards, and like everything, that entire reward system, even from like creators to, our subscribers. I believe that's going to be a big space. The second space I think is going to be really innovating and growing, of course, is the event space, right? Like when the idea that you could get an NFT every time you attend a webinar. And if you have a certain amount of NFTs from a certain amount of webinars, you get VIP access to the upcoming event. Or maybe you are the only ones that can attend day one of the event, because now we have a better baseline of knowledge. But the other kind of like group and subsection that I like to think about when it comes to like NFTs and NFT tracking and NFT, management is like, if we think of, like what is the world and what is our connection conversation points with our audience beyond their purchasing, and understanding kind of like where they're at in the world or what they have going on. And so one of the things that I'm excited about, where I can see this innovation in NFTs going, is our ability to actually track not just giving someone an NFT, but what other NFTs do a majority of our community or our audience have, right? One of the problems that I know a lot of brands and businesses have is they want to get to know their customer even more, right? They want to understand what are their customers' nuances, their buying habits, what are the things that they care about. But that should also kind of probably factor into like, what type of music do you use in your commercials so that it attracts the right type of audience, right? Or the right type of people. Well, imagine if we were able through, the fact that if we knew that people that are our customers or our community members, if we knew that they had our NFT in their wallet, and we were able to, using what is on the blockchain, say, okay, what is the most common overlap? What are the 5 NFTs that our community also own that also own our NFT, right? And now all of a sudden, this looks at like a collaboration opportunity. And really this whole intro of this episode was a long way for me to getting to the point where I believe a lot of innovation in this space is going to be built upon collaboration and co-creation across projects and across like missions, right? So like if your project doesn't have like a gaming component, but that there might be some people in your audience that love gaming, how can we design an NFT project that not only has this utility, but people can use, maybe they can turn in certain utility so they can get utility from other projects that you are partnered with or collaboration with. Like I believe right now a lot of collaboration is either like at like a very vanity high level, or at like a nuanced level of like, hey, we collaborated with Adidas because they're the ones we use for our merchandise. Like, but what if you thought about it that even beyond that, right? Like, what if you said that there are people in our community that want, Adidas merch, but there are also people in our community that have no interest in Adidas merch. And so what if we were able to do a shared NFT project where things are gonna be able to share it amongst themselves? The other part that I just want to kind of share as well was, when we think about our day-to-day lives and like the services and things that we provide or that we leverage, what if we were able to really reinvent word of mouth marketing via NFTs and via really tokens as a whole? And what I mean by that is, like every time someone buys a product or a service from us, or every time we're interacting or someone's, we have a customer brand relationship or customer creator relationship, what if we were able to empower them to have, not only an NFT of proof of purchase that they worked with us, but we were able to give them a second one for them to be able to share with others, right? Now, all of a sudden, we're empowering that group. And then on top of that, like, what if we were able, through content and content co-creation, to be able to incentivize and reward those that are creating content about our brand and kind of amplify that, right? Like, I was even laughing, like, I didn't qualify, I didn't get picked for the Ledger raffle. And I was a little hurt about that, right? Because like for me, I've talked about Ledger for many months on this podcast, hundreds of thousands of downloads that we've had, almost 1 million downloads. And I talk about it on my podcast, on my social channels. And I was like, oh, I guess I'm not a big enough fan to get, the Ledger NFT whitelist that they have for their upcoming drop. And their Twitter account reached out and was like, better luck next time. And like, for me, it's so interesting because as someone that use it, I have an affiliate link for them. My sentiment, like the amount of times I've talked to them, the amount of times I've mentioned them on Twitter and social, you would actually think that they would want to reward those that are are their super fans or those that are talking about them a lot in their NFT drop, rather than it being random raffle for every person that they happen to, distribute it to. And so to me, like, that's a little bit of like those broken components where how can we do both, right? How can we reward those that are super fans? Like, one of the ways I could solve that, right, is that if everyone that bought a ledger gets an NFT, and then those that bought the ledger and you take the snapshot, those that have the ledger and have that NFT in their wallet, those are our original whitelist, right? So we have to start thinking beyond just like raffles or signups or random whitelists and the things that are going out. But we also have to think, what does that co-creation and collaboration look like, right? Because what if you were giving an NFT to everyone who's created an Instagram reel, a YouTube video talking about Ledger? I'm just using them as an example, right? All of a sudden, you would incentivize and motivate people to create user-generated content, which ends up marketing and doing sales for your brand. And then, of course, if you're rewarding them with the ability to buy your NFT, it's not like you're giving them preference. You're rewarding them by giving them early access to something that they can then go ahead and purchase. But if they don't want to, they don't have to, right? And like that, to me, like, how do we reimagine the customer relationship with a brand, customer relationship with an event, and even that like relationship between us and the creators that we love, right? Like I think of it very much so, like there are certain creators on TikTok, certain Instagram creators that I just love their content. I love what they do, and some of them aren't not teaching me anything. They're entertaining me, right? Or they're keeping my spirits up, or they're reminding me about things about mental health or whatever it may be. There's no real reward mechanism right now where like what could I give them, or like what is that exchange? And so that's kind of where I think we're going to see a lot of innovation. We're going to see a lot of change. And so I would love to hear your thoughts. As always, you can just use the hashtag NFT365 or tag us on any of the social accounts. But I would love to hear your take on not only where innovation can live, but what are some of those relationships that we can reimagine with NFTs or with tokens? Or maybe even if you don't have an idea of how we could reimagine it, throw me out an idea like, hey, Brian, I would love to fix this problem in my business. Or maybe it's an employee relationship, right? Like how do I use Web3 to improve my relationship with my employees that are remote, right? Like there's some things that, trust me, there's some gamification that I've done in employee advocacy before that might be something that you guys, we could talk about. But yeah, just send me a tweet, share out some things that I'd love to hear your thoughts. As always, I appreciate everyone that shares out our podcast. If you get value out of the show, if this is something that you really enjoy, I would really appreciate you sharing it out with your followers, with your community, letting them know that this is a podcast that you trust and that you would love for them to listen to as well. That's definitely how we grow here, on the podcast. And then lastly, our sponsor, Crypto Business Conference, I'm excited for that event for all kinds of different reasons. And one of them that I've always appreciated from the parent family, the Social Media Examiner family that puts on that event, is that, a lot of the themes, a lot of the things are not only can be data driven, but can really grow, the conversations that we have, right? And so like, I've always loved, a lot of the times when we go to the networking table, you're like, oh, I'm not sure what networking table I'm going to go to before the event. But what I will tell you is that a lot of times at this event, and this is something you'll be able to do at Crypto Business Conference, is by attending a couple sessions, it might open your mind to be like, you know what, I wasn't going to sit at the developer table, but now I realize I probably want to network with some other developers, so I'll go over there and sit with them as well. And so having that kind of inspiration and then being able to activate that and network with those that are in that specialty is definitely one of the things that I think we can look forward to there at Crypto Business Conference. So I hope to see you there for that. And lastly, I'll just say, be very careful with the spam and the hacks that are going on right now. I mentioned my Instagram, but just recently there's a lot of Nickelodeon tweets that are going out where someone took the handle Nickelodeon_NFT, and they're tweeting out like, hey, we just added 500 NFTs to the drop. Click the link below before they all sell out. And then they're tagging a bunch of people in it, including myself. And we just have to be very conscious, because I even was like, what? Nintendo's doing another drop. And then before I went to the website, because I'm not going to click on a link, I at least know better there, I was like, wait a second, why is the handle not verified by Twitter? And sure enough, it wasn't. And then I realized, oh man, it's another scam that is out there. But just be aware of that. Kind of be on guard. And for the most part, like when something sounds so exclusive or special or new, think twice or 3 times about it before you take any action out there. But until tomorrow, my friends, make it a great day. Cheers.